Hey folks, so for me, Anachrony was one of those games where the first time I played it, I had a bit of trouble figuring out how to achieve the things I wanted to do. Even knowing how to play the game, which if you don't, it was difficult to see the long-term benefit of the different actions. So to that end, I've put together my top 5 tips for new players of Anachrony. And then if you want to see something a little bit more detailed, I've put some links in the description of some more in-depth strategies that might help. So let's jump in. Okay, yes, I did start off by saying that getting what you want can be difficult to figure out, but in order to find your way, you do need to have a destination. At the beginning of a game of Anachrony, it helps to figure out how you want to play. And there are a lot of different options here, but for your first game, I recommend just focusing on your evacuation plan. So your path board will tell you what resources, buildings, and workers you need to collect, and it tends to be the least directly competitive strategy. So you should have a bit more breathing room during the game. Once you figure out what you want, it should be easier to work towards getting it. No matter what your game plan is, you will always want to have geniuses on your team. Besides being able to do any action on the main board, recruiting geniuses lets you pick any recruit bonus as well. Early game, that usually means getting more power cores without having to recruit more engineers. And then once you have those geniuses, putting them to work on actions that help keep them motivated, like the mine or the supply actions, is often a really good idea too. If you're at a loss for what to do, trying to build something is almost always a good idea. Buildings are vital because they give you actions that don't require exosuits, which is going to be very important once the impact occurs. In the first few turns, you want to build a few buildings of different types and start thinking about which super project appeals to you. Or if you can, just try and nab one. Not only are these vital to your engine, but buildings and super projects are also worth points at the end of the game. And believe me, those points really add up. Of course, if you want to build, you're going to need some resources, so make sure to head over to the mine every once in a while. And this is especially important if there are more players in the game, because unlike the 3 center action spaces, you can't mine through the World Council. With the center spaces, you at least have a second chance, but once those mine slots are filled up, you are out of luck until the next era, so don't sleep on this action. Okay, maybe not always, but I find that in most games with a debt mechanic, new players are often pretty shy about using it too much. But in Anachrony, time debt is one of your most valuable tools. I mean, sure, the resources and workers that you get are going to help you build buildings that are going to help you pay off the debt. That's pretty basic. But what actually makes it worthwhile is that paying off the debt earns you points. And on top of that, if you can use it strategically, you can force other players to have to pay off their debt earlier than they're going to want to, lest they rack up too many paradoxes. Now, it's pretty common to get an anomaly in this game, but getting 2 or 3, that's bad. So if you can make your opponents sweat over that, it can only help you out. So those are my top 5 beginner strategy tips. I've moved over here so that the end screen has some space for the cards. I hope those tips have helped you out in your first couple of games, and if you have some advice that you would recommend to new Anachroniers, sure, why don't you leave them in the comments below. And just a reminder, my Patreon backers got to see this video a month before anybody else. So if you want early access to videos, exclusive content, and polls to tell me which games that I should teach, why don't you head on over to the Patreon. I think the button is here somewhere, and pledge a few bucks. See you next time.